Welcome back to the Macabre Academy. Here we are on the Hot Mess Express again because I done fucked up.
You done fucked up.
I did, yes. So,
Isn't that from a movie?
I don't even
It's
know.
no, it's from Key and Peele.
Oh,
Okay.
is it?
You done fucked up, Ron.
That's
Yes!
it. Yes.
So the only reason I know that so well is because two of the names mentioned in that skit. So one was Timothy, which is my husband, and then his brother's name is Aaron, so we always call him Ron.
That's so good.
That's funny.
Okay. Well, let me tell you how we got here and what's going on. So if you're a regular listener and you don't want to talk about suicide, you don't want to talk about cutting, these are our stories. They're not other people's stories. So you don't have to listen to this episode if it's a trigger warning for you. But because on the Macabre Academy, we talk about child rapists, we talk about murderers, we talk about genocides. I mean, we talk about the worst of the worst. I think that nothing should be off the table. And I really wanted to revisit this conversation because I actually found myself really uncomfortable when we were talking about lunatic asylum when Dex said that she had been a cutter in the past. And I missed an opportunity to listen to her story. And then Brandi sent me a message after she listened to the first episode because she wasn't there for part one. And she has also experienced self-harm cutting as well. So this is a conversation I think we need to have. So I'm going to start real quick with I found some statistics because it makes me uncomfortable, but it's very common. It's much more common than I had anticipated. It says like 10% of young people self-harm in one way or another. And that it could be as high as 20%. And the average age that somebody will start hurting themselves is around 12. So this is something that is, an adolescent thing that can carry into adulthood, like my friend, the story I told on the lunatic asylum, as to why cutting makes me uncomfortable. So Dex, I want to start with you. I want to start with your story. When did you start? What was going on with you? Let's hear it.
I don't actually know what age I started. I'm pretty certain I was out of high school when I started. There was a lot of shit going on, and I had high anxiety, high depression, and I don't know, something just kind of made me started doing it at one point. Like,
do you remember the first time?
No, well, no.
Did you have like a preferred implement? Did you have like a trigger?
Paper clips.
Really?
Yeah. You got to work at it with paper clips, so you got to be determined to want to do it.
I was going to say, that's not the sharpest tool that you could use.
Yeah. I only have one scar that lets you know if I show it to you. Otherwise you can't tell. So my big issue with the whole cutting or self-harm thing is, I remember in high school, when I was in high school is kind of when the culture transitioned from like goths and punks to emos. And a lot of people would say how emos would self-harm, and it was for attention-seeking behavior. And I know a lot of people don't understand the desire to self-harm. It's because, like, for me, it was because I got to a point where I was so depressed and so numb to emotion, I would do anything to feel anything. And so cutting was my way of releasing some of that numbness, to actually just feel something.
Now, I was reading statistics that said that not all people self-harm are suicidal. So you're using a paperclip, so your intention was not to end your life.
Well, here's the thing. I am suicidal, but it was not, my intention was not to end my life.
Okay.
But that's because I know well enough that even though I wanted to end my life, one, I'm not actually physically capable of it. I know that. Like, I know if there was just some way that I could just very silently put myself to sleep forever, I probably would have done it. Like, if I could have figured out some way to just like overdose on anesthetics, I
Hmm.
probably would have just done it. But anyway, I can do it. I was like, no, I'm good. Plus, I was also aware that I was well enough aware that my actions to try to kill myself would not just affect me; they'd infect my entire family,
When
and
did
I
you
was not okay with that.
well, when did you realize that you were like self-harming to the point of detriment? Like when did you go, this is a problem?
Um, it was never for me. It was never self-harming to a point of detriment. It's just I knew that it was not okay behavior. I was aware of what I was doing to myself, and I just kind of had a moment finally one day where I was like, I have to stop this.
Hmm.
I know that this could eventually evolve into a bigger problem. And so I got my tattoo and went, that's that.
Well, tell the story of the tattoo because I wanted to ask because I did not know what it meant at all.
Um, okay, so when I was in high school, there was one time of year. I don't remember it. I could Google it at some point. Somebody could Google it, where it was to write love on her arm day. And it was for the to write love on her arm movement to stop self harm, depression, suicide in teenagers and young adults. So a bunch of us who were depressed, who had anxiety, who had self-harm thoughts or self-harm behavior, suicidal thoughts, we would take Sharpies and just on one arm write love all over it and then take pictures and put it on Facebook. Um, Actually, Jake Gyllenhaal is a big supporter of it.
Nice.
Um, so that's why to stop cutting, I got to write love on her arm on my wrist, which because it is, and that's also why I made it look like I had carved it into me.
That's why I chose red ink.
Yes.
Hmm.
I also chose that wrist because what the first guy I had a long-term relationship with, the one time that he broke up with me, he did it in like a really asshole kind of way. So I had taken an X-Acto blade to my wrist with not entirely the intention to kill myself. Like, I wanted to, but I also knew when I did it, I did not do it right. I did not do it deep enough. So there was still kind of that fear there of doing it that way. So that's why I got it on that wrist. Now, because mental health and self harm and things like that are such an important thing to me, it really, really bothered me for a while that people in like college and stuff thought I had carved Twilight into my wrist
Oh no.
because fuck those goddamn books.
Yeah.
Don't fuck with my vampires.
You know, we're
Fucking
gonna
make them
get.
these
I want to get a.
goddamn sparkly ass fairy nymphs.
I want
Fucking
to get a
bullshit.
picture of your tattoo up on the Instagram. I would really love it if our listeners who, if they know anything about this movement, if they're a part of it or you're part of that culture, I want to see those photos coming back of love on your arms and things because I just think that that's a really sweet idea.
It's also why I got Always Keep Fighting. Because Always Keep Fighting was Jared Padalecki's movement that was tagged on. Like, he created Always Keep Fighting for To Write Love on Her Arm to help promote it.
Oh, wonderful. Okay,
So
Brandi.
that's that's another reason, like that's a real big reason why Supernatural is so important to me, because I started watching it during a very dark time with my relationship with my husband and my marriage, and it saved me through it. Like during those 2 years with, like, where me and my husband were not getting along, it was almost to me like being back in some of my darkest days in high school and my young adult life and my relationships, and watching Supernatural during that time helped me so much.
I didn't realize that's what caused your obsession with Supernatural. Like, you just told me
Yeah.
that you loved it so much. This is the first time I'm hearing that's why you love it so much.
Yeah. Like that show and those men and what they do, like, for their fans and how they are for their fans, affects me so much. Okay, Brandi.
Your turn. Yeah.
Okay.
Story time.
So I was a lot younger. 7th grade, November. I don't know what year that was. Fuck.
Well, math is not
ago.
our strong suit.
No. So I graduated in 2013, so do math, 7th grade. My
Go back 5
grandfather
years.
died.
2012?
Fuck. So a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I was about 12,
Mm-hmm.
13. My grandfather died in November. He was one of, like, the biggest supporters in my life and one of the people who I felt like really cared. And so when he died, I kind of just started to spiral. And that's when my depression hit really bad. And I mean, I cut all the way through high school, all the way through college, up until 5 years ago. Yeah, when I lost my brother. But, I mean, it was just, I had so much going on, and I had no control of anything in my life. And my family is very much the family of just shove it down, it doesn't matter. Like, we're not talking about our mental health, we're not talking about anything, it doesn't matter, you're fine. So, I mean, it was honestly me crying out for help. Like, I remember days where I would take steak knives and run into my bathroom in my bedroom in the basement, and my dad would follow me and just, like, pound on the door.
Steak knives.
Those
are serrated.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. Like, I was done. Like, I was so ready. And my sister and brother would be sitting out there making fun of me.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like, because that's the way our family was, where, oh, she's just doing this for attention, she's not really sad, nothing's really wrong, she's fine, your life is perfect, why are you like this? So for me, mental health still has that stigma of, just push it down, it's fine, like, you'll be fine. And I mean, it's just, my family doesn't talk about that. There was a Christmas where I went to Christmas Eve at my aunt's house with my wrist ace bandaged because I had cut them so badly.
Oh my.
No one talks about it to this day.
Have you ever needed stitches from doing that?
Probably, but did I ever go and get them? No, because that would force my parents into, one, admitting me into a psych hospital, two, admitting that there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was very much like that. As far as he was concerned, mental health problems were not a thing. They were not valid. Like, if you had something physically wrong with you, you had an actual physical body ailment, then he was all for it. But as far as mental health, there was nothing wrong with his kids, because if there was, that meant they were crazy.
Well, but like, so I think for me, it was, one, a way to control everything I was feeling because I could see a problem. And that's how I grew up, was, oh, well, if there's nothing physically wrong, then there's nothing wrong. So me physically making something wrong was my way of coping. And I mean, I have friends to this day who knew me during that time, and it was awful. Luckily, because I was so young, I think, I don't have the scars. I have like one or two on my wrist that like are so faded you can barely see them.
That's what I'm surprised about. Like, I didn't catch that either two of you did those, because I have dated and I've been around people with some horrific white scars up and
Yeah.
down, sideways, which ways. I mean, it fucking looks like chicken wire.
I mean, that's
stretched
also
across
why
it.
I'm more like self-conscious about like my thighs, because I would do it on my thighs, because people look at your arms, they know.
So you try
I
to
would,
hide it. Okay.
Like I would cut my stomach open, I would cut my thighs. It was areas that I knew people wouldn't look.
You said when
And
your brother died, it kind of stopped it. So what was your moment? What caused you, and how did you deal with it to stop doing that?
I don't know. I just stopped. I mean, I remember going to his funeral and I had to wear a long sleeve dress because it was all up and down my arms. And that was also right when Ryan and I started dating. So Ryan and I started dating in April. My brother died in December of the same year.
Oh, wow.
So I think it was, I didn't want him to see and be like, oh my God, this bitch is crazy. And like, I mean, honestly, like that's what my brain was, oh, they're going to see this and they're going to think I'm crazy. And I just stopped. I mean, there's still days, like when I was in the really, really toxic work environment, there were still days where I was done and I just wanted to go home and do it.
Oh, I totally understand that. Like to this day, I don't remember when I got my tattoo. But especially because like when I was with my one ex-boyfriend, he's I hesitate to say that he got me started cutting again, because while I was cutting myself, it was not because of depression. It was not for self-harm purposes.
I think it's like a safety blanket after so long.
But like when I was cutting for self-harm, when I was cutting for whatever the bizarre ass reason was that I would do it with my ex, like, this is going to sound weird, it's going to sound crazy, but I love it. I love the feel and the sensation and just doing it. So I don't remember when I got my tattoo, but there have been times that it has been incredibly hard, especially when I end up in one of like my deep depression states. Like, it is so hard, but yeah, I look at my tattoos and it's like, don't do it.
So what would you want to tell a listener that might be suffering with self-harm or not aware that it's a problem? Like, what would you want to share? Because if your family doesn't talk about it, then it's really important that we talk about it, so that somebody else knows that there's hope, there's a way to stop, there's a silver lining. What would you want to pass on?
There's other ways to control your feelings. There's other ways to make yourself feel better. There's music, there's reading, there's art. There's so many things that, because you're going to wake up one day and you're going to see the scars and you're going to hate yourself. And making more scars is not going to make you hate yourself any less.
Ladies, I know that when I met you girls, yins are very like tough ladies, right? Like you play things really close to the chest. And now here you are, knowing me since October, sharing these stories. And it's amazing to watch you guys open up and share things with me. And I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm not perfect. And wow, I love that we're on this adventure together, because that's where I found healing with facing my own suicide when I wrote that blog. And it was because of you girls. So I'm hoping that we can pass some of that on to our listeners, because this is something that I got out of doing this podcast. Even if it's only 5 listeners, I don't care. The journey has been so important to me that I don't have words to express my deepest gratitude that we're here, we're doing this, we're talking about it. It needs to be talked about, So if you girls,
I know this is going to sound very cliche,
that's
but
okay.
I'm going to do it anyways. So the best thing, because it helped me a lot recently, it still to this day helps me. The best thing I can tell listeners is always keep fighting, because you are not alone. Even if you think you're alone, find a community. I don't care if it's a community of people who used to self-harm, of people who have attempted suicide. Come join the supernatural family. Like, we're all
Or join
about
our
including,
family.
or even our family.
Mhm.
Like, just find a community where you, of individuals, of peers who you can feel safe discussing things with, and reach out to them. Just reach out to people.
I'm going to make this video public on YouTube. I'm going to make sure that this is accessible for anybody who needs to find us, because we are on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Snapchat, we're on TikTok, we're on, what else are we on? We have the emails. We got a website you can go to, macabreacademy.com, and write us letters, like whatever you need to do to get to us. We have the Discord too. You can get to us. We want to have these conversations with you. We want to be on this ride with you. And if we can help you in any way, let's do this, right? We're a team. We're a tribe. We're a coven of witches at this point. So, okay. Well, we're going to hop off the express today, but thank you guys for letting me rectify that mistake and teaching me some things. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.